right. Well, hello, Farm Bureau team. We are live with Senator Kevin Van De Wege. Senator, thank you so much for taking the time with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of our members are familiar with you. I know you are not new in this role by any stretch, but could you give us a little bit about your background? Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what was maybe the catalyst that made you run.
Okay. I currently live and represent the 24th Legislative District, the Olympic Peninsula, but I didn't grow up there. I grew up in Whatcom County, rural Whatcom County, and my mother's family had a dairy farm, and then I worked on a different dairy farm that was right next to our house while I was in high school. My cousin had a berry field, and I worked on that in my early childhood. Fond of somewhat memories there. So around agriculture a lot growing up. There was, I think, certainly a period of time where I was destined to probably be a dairy farmer to some extent, but instead I got into firefighting and thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yes.
And decided that might be a better option for me. So went to college and kind of moved my way through that process. My first, finished training and residencies and that whole vet paramedic school. Mm-hmm. My first career job was in Sunnyside there in Eastern Washington between Yakima and the Tri-Cities. So my wife and I moved there. We had just gotten married. And I worked in Sunnyside for 2 years. Obviously a big agriculture area and that was a fun place to be and to live and to experience. And while there, that union, I was a union firefighter, and that union was involved in politics. And the State Council of Firefighters has a legislative day similar to the farm commodity groups. All do that as well. So I would come over here to Olympia. There were a couple of firefighters already elected to the legislature at that point. Sunnyside, Eastern Washington was a temporary thing. We knew we were going to come back to Western Washington. I tested around and looked at some various departments. We landed in SWIM, which is Cloud 11 Fire District 3. Mm-hmm. They hired me, and I got involved a little bit in the Democratic Party then and said, hey, at some point I might be interested in running for the legislature. And they responded within a year and said, we really need you to run. Now's the time to do it. Yeah. So I ran in 2004 and lost, and then ran in 2006 and won, and have been here ever since. And every year have at least been on the Agricultural Natural Resource Committee.
Yes, yes. That is fantastic. Yeah. Well, is there a particular issue or maybe a particular bit of policy that you've been working on that is really kind of a passion project of yours that you've been working on lately?
There's a few of them. I mean, certainly one, the Olympic Peninsula is a very timber dependent district. And we're fortunate in that timber looks good because it's a great way to sequester carbon, and there's a lot of talk and a lot of funding and a lot of desire to sequester carbon. We are, though, some people feel like not cutting trees at all is the best way to sequester carbon, and I feel the best way to sequester carbon is to cut trees or to grow trees, harvest them, and then grow more trees. So that's something I'm just representing the district. I'm always passionate about, always working on protecting what jobs we have at the mills, the paper mills, the sawmills, out in the woods, is very important to me. It's something I take very seriously.
Fantastic. Well, with your position on the Agriculture Committee with the Senate, you see a great deal of legislation obviously moving through that committee. Is there a particular bill or a particular bit of legislation that our members should be aware of, that as we're kind of reaching the final month or so of the legislative session, that you're tracking within the committee, that our members should maybe be aware of and tracking as they're trying to keep a thumb on what's going on as it impacts agriculture?
Sure. As far as stuff that's still alive for this session, there's not, I don't think, a lot.
Okay.
I know you would love for that answer to be something to take care of the the Climate Commitment Act, extra funding on fuel and the fix for that. There doesn't seem to be legislation that is getting any traction on that topic. So unfortunately, I can't tell you that that's something to watch. I think riparian, certainly any riparian mandates are dead. I think for the most part, any voluntary type riparian movements most likely are dead. There might be some funding around that, but I don't think it will be as robust as people originally thought it was going to be. But there's still probably be something happening there. So, and there's unfortunately also nothing on fixing ag overtime. So there's not, for good or bad, there's just not a lot of legislation moving in those areas. I know farmers and ranchers are looking for some fixes to some problems that have developed, but we don't have those going on. I mean, there's a couple of small bills of beef checkoff. It seems to be going well. No attacks on pesticides. Nick Torres is running a good, getting pesticides, getting the groups facilitated a little better. But yeah, nothing that I know of that it's going too bad.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
in some ways, hey, that
Yeah.
for better or worse, I
Right.
appreciate the honesty. That's
Right.
fantastic. Well, one, just kind of last couple, one, from your perspective, how is agriculture perceived in the state, and kind of what are maybe some steps that, from your perspective as a leader in the legislature, that we can take as far as moving forward in the right way to help improve that posture and perhaps that perspective that our state has?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the greatest thing that agriculture doesn't realize is how valued they are in the state, and that's because they always feel like they're getting beat up, right? There's always policies coming out that are controlling how they have to treat their workers, the pesticide application. I mean, it's just on and
Sure.
on and on and on. And so if you're a farmer rancher, I think you sitting at home, you feel like the state hates you and like, why are you even here? And like, does anybody even respect you? And the legislature has done a horrible job of showing it, but there is a tremendous amount of support for the agriculture community in the state. And you have a lot of power. And I think the Farm Bureau as of late, has done a really good job of using that power best to their advantage. You're never going to win every battle, but agriculture certainly has an impact in the state.
Yeah. Well, that's
and
very
is well respected.
Good. Well, just lastly, is there anything, we've got members that'll be watching this, anything in particular? What you just said was very powerful and encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that. But is there a message that you would give to farmers and ranchers throughout the state that may be viewing this that you would want to share?
I think the message I feel that farmers need to hear the most, and something that Farm Bureau and other commodity groups really need to look hard at, is the regulations that are put on them in the area of saving salmon, right? So, you have to do this thing this way now because it helps salmon. And there's agencies push that through rulemaking on so many different topics. And something that I've worked on and have been completely stymied is trying to help with the other side of that in the way we harvest them. We still have a robust non-tribal gillnet fishery in the state. It drives me crazy that we put all of these rules and regulations on ranchers and farmers and timber, and then have a completely non-selective fishery that kills everything that goes into it, right? Gillnets, that's the way they work. So in the future, I think it would be nice to build more of a consensus and hear from agriculture, like, we're going to support getting rid of gillnets because it doesn't make any sense that we have those when you're regulating me to do this, because this is just endless and never seems to stop growing. So I think that kind of gets into a lot of topics, Snake River dams, like like if we can ban gill nets in this state, maybe that takes Snake River Dam conversation off the table for a little while. Things like that. So I think there's more consensus building that I can do, that agriculture can do, and I look forward to doing that in the future. I think that's something everybody should keep in mind.
Good. Senator, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
It's an honor.
Thanks for doing this. Yeah.